Hi guys, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to be creating a card with a gift card holder inside of it, as well as an envelope to match. I'll do a little bit of envelope art. I'm using some new products from Stampendous. This set of dies is called A2 gift card holder and envelope. I also have one that is a mini slimline gift card holder, and I'll link to that video at the end of this one. But I make mostly A2 sized cards, so I was excited to try this one out. This is the gift card holder die right there. And then it comes with some really cute sentiments, as well as the shadow dies for these. They say, a gift for you, happy birthday, and your. You could change it to be a gift for your birthday. I really like the font on these dies. For my card today, I'm just going to be using the Happy Birthday dies. I'm not going to be using their coordinating shadow pieces. I'm also going to be using this in conjunction with one of their stamp sets, which is called Birthday Messages. There are longer messages that you can stamp on the insides of your cards, and then it also includes Happy Birthday and My Friend. But the one I'm going to be using today says, hope your birthday is filled with lots of family, friends, food, and fun. I also really like the one that says, well, once you're over the hill, you do have a great view. So these are some really fun messages and a great little stamp set to have in your stash. I'm also planning on using the A2 gift card holder for some really fun teacher gift cards at the end of the school year. I went ahead and picked out some pattern paper. These are from Spellbinders. They came from some of their card kits. I'm also using an older die set from Spellbinders called the Simply Perfect Layered Blooms. I'm just going to use this one single die because it matched really well with the purple pattern paper that you see in the back there. So I cut out a bunch of flowers using cardstock that would match. It's really fun to pull in some of your old die sets and using them again. I'm going to create the gift card holder first. And as you can see, I had a folded piece of cardstock and I ran it through my die cutting machine. I have to snip off the sides here. The middle piece I can just kind of pull out. And then the edges on either side are perforated and you'll just want to bend those back. I already cut out the pattern paper and more of the teal cardstock using the two rectangle dies that came in this kit, or this set. And the gift card sits inside this holder like so. We got to attach this to the middle of our card base first. I'm using some double-sided tape. I'll attach this to the edges of the tabs. And then I'll just pull off the release paper. The card base I'm using is also from one of Spellbinders' older card kits. I've always liked their pre-made card bases because they have some pretty texture to it, just a very subtle linen-like texture. But I'll put the gift card holder in the center of the fold. Make sure it's centered up and down as well, and then I'll just pinch that together. And that's where your gift card holder goes. So clever. Now I can attach the pattern paper to the larger pieces of cardstock. And this one's going to go up at the top. I'll add more tape runner. And this will fit into the fold as well. It will make it perfectly centered. And now for the other side. I'm using a pattern that's a little less busy, and I'll be able to write a message on this side. I'll also be able to stamp out a sentiment on this piece of pattern paper. I'll attach that to another piece of teal cardstock. And again, I'll add tape runner to the back. And just butt that up to the fold in the center of the card. And that is perfectly aligned. So these are very fun and easy to make. And now I'm going to decorate the outside of the card. I'm going to use some mint tape to make a border around the bottom of the card. And I'll just line that up to the edge. And then one on the left side of the card. And again, I'm just going to line it up to the edge. I'm going to bring in some inks that match pattern papers that I chose for the center of the card. I'm using some teal blue, and I'm just going to start blending it on the front of this card very softly. And then I'm going to bring in a purple as well. I'm not worried about the top edge or the right edge. I'm just going to fade the ink off to white. But of course, if you wanted to recreate this, you could put the mint tape on all four edges and have a nice rectangular window there. But I like the look of it just kind of fading off. Now I can bring in my purple ink. I want to add more interest and color to the front of this card. But I do want a smooth blend, so I'm going back and forth with these two brushes. I'm going to add more purple ink to the bottom left of this card. I want it a little bit darker. I'll blend that out with the blue. And now I can pull off mint tape, and you see that nice crisp line. I love that. So this little window I created is where I'm going to add some more of these flowers. I'll put white dots in the center of these. These mimic really well the flowers on the purple pattern paper inside the card. Everything is going to go down flat on the front of this card. Here are the sentiment dies, and I'll start with the sentiments first. I'll put the birthday down at the bottom and then the happy. Now that I have my sentiment in place, I can glue down my florals. I cut out a few extra white polka dots, and I'm going to put these down on the front of the card in place of any embellishment. There were white polka dots on that piece of purple pattern paper, so that's why I'm using the white dots. Now I'm going to open this card back up and stamp out a sentiment using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I'll do a test run there on a piece of scrap paper. And I wish I had stamped it out before I had attached it to the card using my mini Misty. Trying to get it as straight as I can. Sorry, my head is in the shot there. Just had to look over the acrylic block. It's kind of nerve-wracking stamping out the sentiment after the card is practically complete. I'm going to add a few more of these flowers around the sentiment. And then, of course, I'll add some more of the white polka dots. And there's still a place for me to sign my name and maybe write a short message. But I love finding a color palette for your card using pattern paper. Very often, pattern paper can be very helpful and inspiring when you're trying to think of a color palette. And here is the card all done. Let me open it up and show you how the gift card holder looks when it's all complete. Next, we're going to move on to some envelope art. So I cut out some very lightweight purple cardstock. The die pre-scores the edges, and I already folded them over. You'll notice that 2 of the tabs are thin and 2 of the tabs are thicker. So that means you can create your envelope in 2 ways, either as a portrait or a landscape orientation. So for a landscape envelope, the thicker tab will go at the top. This envelope will be in the portrait orientation. So the wider tab on this side will be at the top. I use a little dot of glue to glue the bottom flap to the sides. And then for the sides, I decided to use some more score tape. This is thinner tape that I'm using on the envelope. This is also from Spellbinders. I'll peel off the release paper. I cut out another piece of the purple cardstock with the larger of the two rectangles that came in this kit. And now I can attach the back of my envelope over these flaps. And then your envelope is done. I love envelopes that are portrait orientation like this. I think they're so cute. I only had one problem with it, and I'll show you here what happened. So here is the card I created, and I went to slide it in my envelope, but my card kept catching on the flap at the bottom of this envelope. I couldn't get it in. So I'm going to redo this in another way. So I'll fold in the two side flaps first. Again, I'm making sure that the thickest of the two flaps is up at the top, so it looks like a normal envelope. But this time I'm just using liquid glue to do this. You could use score tape or liquid glue or a combination of both, but I just wanted to quickly try this out. And then for the bottom flap, I'm going to put that on top with more liquid glue. So I'll just fold that over. And this way, I did not have a problem putting my greeting card inside the envelope. Perhaps if my greeting card had been a little bit thinner, it would have worked with the flap inside. But when I used this die set, I think I'm always going to put the bottom flap on the outside. And as you can see, it just works perfectly now. So I cut out a piece of Canson XL watercolor paper. It's kind of a lightweight watercolor paper. And I taped it down with more score tape, and I want to do a little bit of envelope art on the front of this envelope. Before you do this, you want to figure out what orientation you want your envelope to be, and then make sure that the widest flap is at the top. This is actually my second attempt of creating this envelope because mine was upside down the first time I did this. Again, I'm going to add some purple and teal inks on the outside of this card. These are the lighter of the two colors that I'll be using. And then I cut out some masks using the same flower die. I punched out holes in the middle to mimic the flowers again of that pattern paper. And then I'm going to add the darker purple on top of this. So these two inks are a little bit darker versions of the first two that I used. We'll start with the first flower. The mask paper didn't really like all of the ink that I was putting down, so I have to kind of hold them in place. I'm going to add a few more of these flowers in the corner of this envelope. I'm making sure that the inside of the flowers are really nice and dark. I'm using a really small brush for that. And this will create some really subtle flowers on the edge of your envelope. Now I'm creating a few blue flowers with the blue ink. I'm reusing the masks as many times as I can before they kind of wear out. I only had 3 masks total, and it seemed to be enough to get this envelope done. It looks kind of messy now, but once I peel off the mint tape, you'll see how pretty this looks. I'm going to add a little more color to the edge of this. The ink is still subtle enough that you can still write your recipient's name and address on the front of this card. Now for the fun part, let's peel off the mint tape and see how this really turned out. And as I said, the die does add the score lines to this envelope, but because this cardstock was a little bit thicker than the first cardstock I used, I reinforced the scoring before I bent them over so it didn't crack. Look how pretty that is. Such a fun envelope to send out into the mail. I want to make this flower at the bottom of the card here just a tad darker, so I'm going to put the mask back over it. And I should have put the mint tape back over it too, because I do get a little bit of the purple ink on the flap of the envelope. But I didn't mind that too much. I'm just going to keep going. Now let's glue this envelope together. So as you can see, the top flap is the widest flap. This is going to be a landscape orientation envelope. I'll use my bone folder to reinforce the creases. I'll make them nice and sharp. But as I mentioned, I did go over the score lines with my bone folder before I folded them. Otherwise, the paper cracked. Okay, so let's use some double-sided adhesive for this. And because this paper is a little bit thicker, I'm going to use the score tape as well as a little bit of glue. The liquid glue also allows me to wiggle the rectangle panel in place before it adheres perfectly. And as you can see, the bottom flap I left out, and I'll just glue that up and over this rectangle when I'm done so that the card can fit inside easily. I'll peel off the release paper on the bottom flap, add a little more liquid glue, and then fold this in place. Here is the greeting card again. And this is going to be really fun to send out because it not only has the envelope art and the pretty card, it's going to have a fun gift card inside. And then let's make sure it fits into this envelope. And it's just the right size. It fits perfectly. I hope you enjoyed today's card and envelope inspiration. Here's another card that I made with this fabulous set. It is portrait orientation. I did have to cut down the card holder just a little bit on either edge, but you can make either orientation with this set. I'll have links to the products that I used listed in the description box if you want to check them out. Happy crafting, my friends. Till next time. Bye.